Why would we do that one?
Dad, this is what happens to people who break into Carter Road.
What does?
My friend.
We are the Strawbridges, and we are preparing for a 2020 thru-hike of the Continental Divide Trail, southbound, in peculiar circumstances. Circumstances I suspect that not many people could have foreseen. We had planned at the end of June to begin our thru-hike southbound in Glacier National Park, and I think our greatest challenge was going to be to get reservations for these backcountry campsites. Things have been turned over quite a bit. If you had told me 6 months ago that a global pandemic would completely shut down international travel, would restrict domestic travel, and would close national parks and trails and state parks and trails all over the country, I think I would have laughed at you. But here we are. It is a strange time, it is a confusing time, and it is uncertain. So, why are we out here training? Or why are we bothering to train? I think really for me it's connected to that understanding of certainty and uncertainty and what that is. What did we know before when we set out to hike this trail? We didn't know whether we would be able to do it for sure. We never did. And in some sense, do you hold tomorrow? None of us does. And we all walk toward it with some sense of mystery, some sense of uncertainty. But I'm walking forward toward the end of June in the idea of a thru-hike with some hope. Some of it's reasonable hope, some of it's just blind hope. The confidence that I have, or the movement toward confidence that I have, is connected to a wonder that I have in terms of the human body and its adaptability. It does seem, based on everything that I'm seeing about this virus, that the body is adapting, readily adapting, that the immune system is not tricked for too long in most cases. That's not to diminish in any way the devastation of the experience of this virus and the vulnerable. It is a ugly thing, and a lot of people are really suffering because of it, and it's awful. But I do have hope. I have hope in terms of the body's adaptability, but I also have hope in terms of the adaptability of human as a group when we pour our collective mind against this great evil. It is amazing to watch how much people's hatred of disease and their hatred of death unites them against this cause. You're seeing treatments, you're seeing testing, you're seeing development toward cures, you're seeing infrastructures put together to facilitate distribution of necessary items. It's really amazing to watch the way people have done it. And you're seeing people take on a deliberate suffering in terms of the isolation causes. There's an economic consequence to it that people are adapting to and adopting. I think you do see a lot of anger rise to the top, and I think that's connected to anxieties. And a lot of those anxieties are not unfounded. There's anxieties about the fear of the virus itself, which is not unfounded. It's an ugly disease. There are anxieties about the effect of our reaction and interaction with this disease by shutting down economies. What's the consequence of that? And that's not an unfounded anxiety. And there's concern about what the political effect will be when individual rights are lost for the sake of the group. What will you give up? What powers will you give up that you will abandon, that you'll never get back? And that's all legitimate for people to have anxiety about. And some of that anxiety leads to anger. I have a friend the other day that I saw a post of his when a pastor in Tampa had refused not to meet and had gotten his group together and he had been arrested. And the friend put a post up that said, "This is great. Natural selection will take care of these idiots." And he's a nice guy. He's a kind man. He's a physical therapist. He's been very helpful to us along the way, but it really saddened me that he would be moved so quickly to it probably was just a joke on the one hand, but on the other hand, in this kind of a tense environment, what comes off as a joke can be like ideological genocide. And it was frightening for me to read that from him. And I do think there's a lot of that laced in all of our conversation that's potentially very disruptive. And it's no less present in the subculture of through hiking. People are right to be concerned. If you're on trail now and you're through hiking, you're not having a great experience. But I'm not sure you should be there right now in the midst of all this uncertainty. So if we decide to go toward the end of June, it will be because we've either gotten rid of the virus or we've learned to live with it. And we understand enough that we can accommodate for it. And so we would avoid all of these trail towns completely. For a non-through hiker, that might not seem to make that much sense. But what ultimately happens is all of these through hikers during the peak of the season come in and out of these tiny trail towns that are largely inhabited by aging populations. And those aging populations, for the most part, and many of them fit pretty squarely into the vulnerable category. So above anything else, we would not want to be asymptomatic carriers that brought this disease into town. So if this thing is tapering out and we've sort of begun to figure out ways to be aware of it, we've gotten better testing, all those kinds of things, then we could potentially arrange to do resupplies not through those local towns, but through people that could meet us at various trailheads coming from larger cities, larger metropolitan areas with better medical services. And so that way we would just really, in some way, more or less, go off the grid for a good portion of the hike. Another layer of that would be that my dad has suggested that he would take a good long vacation and run parallel to the trail and be our resupply. The only thing we'd ask of him is that he also stayed out of those smaller trail towns along the way. On trail, at least on the CDT, it would be fairly easy to keep our distance from other hikers and to be careful about using less heavily trafficked campsites. If Glacier National Park is closed on the north end, still at the end of June, it's possible that larger, clear, and open sections further south would make for a good starting point, and we could just do those trails and flip-flop around until we were able to get back to the top and start up there. One of the areas that we were sort of intrigued by was the Great Divide Basin, potentially starting there, maybe the Bob Marshall Wilderness, something like that. But there are options to consider that would keep us completely out of those trail towns. I think the thing that I would say, maybe more than anything, is that I find it difficult to swallow that our futures are forever irrevocably altered and that this is somehow the new normal that is and will always be. I think it's right and good that we, while holding it loosely, begin to dream about what is to come, to make plans about what is to come, and to look forward to what is to come when this stuff passes, and it will pass. I think that's good. I think, are you a through hiker? Plan a through hike. Are you a mountain biker? Dream. Are you missing sports and getting together with all your friends, playing sports, going to school? You missing all those things? You're not wrong to dream. You're not wrong to look forward toward that. And in some way, to look forward to it with greater relish and to appreciate it more when you get it back. It's funny how you don't notice how much you love something until it's taken away. So in the meantime, we are dreaming of a through hike at the end of June. And it is possible that the circumstances will allow it. But again, we're ready and we're willing to cancel it. We're just not sure that we have to. And we think it's a little bit premature to demand it of ourselves to cancel. But in addition to making plans and dreaming of a future, when we get to do things that we love, is what can we do now? And that's been one of the most frustrating things about this. How can I be of service and how can I be helpful? This is crazy bike track, mostly. Some people walk it, obviously, we are. But this used to be called the Beast, and I used to try it back when I was on a mountain bike myself. Georgie, I think, is worn out. Are you worn out, Georgie? You did what? Are you waiting here for us? Wow. See a wuss cake? George is waiting there. This is the beast. The mega beast. June, you worn out? No, she's not worn out, but she's going to wait with George again. So each of these things is his fingers that run out into pits on either side. And a finger that's affectionately known as the beast. Oh, you did?
It's still caught.
You jerk. Yeah, I think we should do tape and super glue. You want to go home?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't have to get some fire on my leg.
What is it, Evan?
The coronavirus is going on the trip.
That's my take. That's my takeaway. That's all I got. Here's my assessment. I was just telling the camera that I think the thing that's fascinating in this whole movement is that it's anxiety that leads to anger on either side. Anxiety over the economy that leads people to be so angry about people that are wanting to shut everything down completely over the virus. It's anxiety over the virus that causes people to be so angry and venomous toward people who are scared about the economy and want to get it rolling again. So you've got these two warring ideas that are both driven by anxiety.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Or do you agree? One makes sense to you, yeah. Makes sense to me too. I think that's what I see too. Who knows if we're right? We'll find out. So many of these things that we think we're right about will be proven out. And we may as well wait and see. Because you take one day at a time, one step at a time, 1 mile at a time, one conversation at a time. What if we treated every conversation, every person that reached toward us, like the reach out toward us, as something that was from God, that those people were given to us by God to try and figure out how to love and love well?
I think that's exactly what it does.
You think that's what he does?
Yeah.
See, I do too. I do too. Let's take today and let's say, God, give us people to love today. Give us things to do today.